Hi there. Today we are making tomato fry.
Tomato fry.
So this is kind of funny, right? I have this American inflected Canadian accent.
For sure, eh?
And despite having lived in London for 2.5 years, I absolutely do not have an English accent of any sort. And it sounds, I think, really poncy for me to say tomato. I say tomato, and when I was living in London, I said tomato all the time. But this recipe is tomato fry. It is the one place that I say tomato. And it's because we had it in Kerala in South India when we lived there. And it is, I think, a recipe that is unique to South India. I have never seen it, we've never seen it on a menu in any Indian restaurant anywhere other than in South India, particularly in Kerala. And it's become one of our favorites. It's really easy to do. And as you know, if you've watched our salsa recipe, we have a glut of tomatoes right now. So it's a really good time to make tomato fry. So there are a couple of ingredients there's one ingredient in particular that might be hard for you to get. All the rest are replaceable with easy to get things. So let's walk you through what we've got here. So we're starting with coconut oil, which we love. And coconut oil is used all over South India, and it's very, very flavorful. You could use something like ghee or a plain oil like sunflower oil here, but it's not going to give you the flavor, the South Indian flavor that we're going for. So this is a coconut oil that smells like coconut. Yeah. There are the refined ones that don't, that you often get in health food stores and stuff. This one smells like coconut.
It should smell like a macaroon.
And we bought this in Costco, so it's totally easy to purchase here. That is brown or black mustard seed, depending on who you ask. It is not yellow mustard seed. Most of the commercial mustards that we buy in North America are made with a yellow mustard seed. This one is usually called brown, but occasionally I've seen it called black, and it's integral to the recipe. Here we have some green chilies. Now, traditionally, you'd be using an Indian chili that is longer and skinnier than those ones I have there, but we didn't have any. These are serranos that we got at a grocery store. So easy to access, you could use a jalapeno. Now, what you generally do is you take a knife and you split the chili from the center to the end and otherwise leave it whole. That means as it's cooking, some of the juices and maybe a couple of the seeds might come out, but you're not getting the full chili hit.
It's a vegetal kind of flavor.
It is. And usually you don't eat them. When you're serving up the dish and stuff, people put the food on their plate, but they push the chilies out of the way. They generally don't eat the chili. Now, that being said, if you're using jalapenos here, which aren't as hot, you could just do slices instead, and then you'd get some more heat. It really depends on the level of heat of your chili and also how hot you like your food. So, and that's not the only chili in here. So there are two places we're looking at chili. Now, this is the ingredient that might be hard for you to get. Those are curry leaves. And if any of my Indian friends are watching right now, they'll be looking at those and saying, those look horrible.
Well, they do.
And they do. And it's because they've been in our freezer. So there are very few places that we can purchase curry leaves, which are used in so many of the South Indian dishes, but generally aren't used in North Indian dishes. So they're harder to come by in the grocery stores that sell Indian ingredients, and they're fresh. These are not dried. So what we do is we buy a bag when we see them, we use them for a couple of days, and then when we think we're not going to be using them for a little while, I throw them in a baggie in the freezer, and we pull them out when they're needed. And they're not quite as good as fresh, but I gotta tell you, they're better than not having anything at all. There is nothing that you can substitute for curry leaves. They are what they are.
Fresher the better.
They come on a stem, and these have been pulled off of the stem, which is traditional. Here we have some thinly sliced onion, pretty straightforward. We've got garlic and ginger, both minced. Then here we have cumin seed, turmeric, and this is chili powder. So this is our second round of chili in this recipe. Now, chili powder is a tricky thing. It's taken me years to figure this out. In American recipes, when they say chili powder, they are 90% of the time referring to a blend that is really, really mild. It has a mild chili, red chili ground up in it, and then it usually has like oregano and salt and various other, maybe some cumin things in there for making Mexican food. It is not very spicy. This chili powder is. So you need to decide how hot or not you want it to be. We sometimes use something called Kashmiri chili powder, which provides the beautiful color and the chili flavor, but it's not very hot. This is actually a hot chili powder, and it's really, by chili powder, I mean it's ground, dried chilies. Nothing else in there, okay?
Start small.
Then there are beautiful wee little Roma tomatoes that we have, the Juliet tomatoes.
Did you grow those yourself?
I did, and they're just wonderful. And then we have some water if we need it, just to make sure that things don't stick. Stop it. And then we have salt to taste. So let's get started. I'm using a wok, which of course is not traditional. You can use a frying pan, but something with more surface area is better than something with less, which is why I'm using the wok. And we're going to start by getting it fairly hot.
Fan.
Yeah, I don't want to turn the fan on though, because I'm afraid of the sound with the video.
There could be smoke alarm.
So we're going to try and do this without, and hopefully we won't get smoked out. Okay, so I'm going to dump the coconut oil in there, and it should take very little time to melt.
So how hot do you want to get the coconut oil before you put in the dry spices?
Just before smoking. You want it to be pretty darn hot, because we're going for, and you might remember this from when we tempered the dal, we're going for getting these seeds to pop.
But not burn.
But not burn. So it's a tricky balance, right? With the tempered dal, I was right on the edge because I was trying to talk at the same time, which is, you know, that's a whole other level. I recommend if you're making this dish, don't talk. Certainly not into a camera.
Shut up. So some people might say that's an awful lot of coconut oil.
It is, but that's what the recipe calls for. My husband, who was one of the originators of this recipe through someone else, likes fat. And so this recipe does. It has a fair amount of coconut oil in it, but it really changes the flavor, and it's worth it. And one of the things that I did want to say while our oil's just melting there is that this is a small amount of food here, because this would not be served by itself. It would probably be with like 5 dishes. There'd be a rice dish and like a dal dish, maybe a meat dish, depending on whether it was vegetarian or not. So you hear that sound? I'm going to start putting things in there. So we're going to put in, and I can start to see a little bit of smoke. So I'm going to put those in, as well as the curry leaves, which will sputter a bit, as well as the chilies.
That's what we're talking about.
So you want to keep away from the oil here. As you can see, it does sputter. You don't want to get burned.
Oh, that smell.
It's a very, whoa, distinctive smell. So there you go. I just did get slightly burned. It's now getting to the point where I want to turn it down a little to put the onions in, because I don't want these onions browning. I want them to end up being translucent. Oh my goodness, that smell. I wish I had smell-o-vision here. There is nothing like this.
Just like being there.
Yeah, that's the coconut oil and the curry leaves. It's like nothing else.
Because coconut oil is in everything.
It really is.
It's amazing.
So if you don't like the taste of coconut, you'd be hard-pressed to find a meal that you'd enjoy in South India. But we love it. And we use it in lots and lots of things. Okay, so these onions are getting soft. They're starting to turn, they're quite thinly sliced, so they're starting to turn translucent. And I did turn the heat down a little, right? Part of that was for the onions, and the other part is because I don't want to burn the garlic, the ginger, and the spices. Spices are really easy to burn, particularly if they're powdered. Okay, so we're gonna put the garlic in there, the ginger, and as always, all the amounts are down below in the box. And then those spices. Turn it up just a touch.
A little bit more.
Yep. Oh, the smell of the turmeric in there too.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is our masala, right? This is what flavors everything. And it's really common in South India, that mixture of curry leaves, chilies, mustard seeds, ginger, garlic, and turmeric. You know, those are in pretty much everything.
It seems like there's only about a dozen ingredients in South India. That's just all the proportions of.
No, I think there's more than a dozen, but it
14,
felt like that
14.
for us because we come from a place where we have access to so many different ingredients. But it's quite magical how they're able to make so many different dishes out of the same ingredients. Okay, so now I'm going to add the tomatoes and I'm going to turn up the heat so that we do not want these tomatoes to stew or to steam. So it has to be high. Woo! Get your face out of the way.
And when do you add salt?
Or you might start coughing. The salt comes in right at the end here. I'm just making sure, like I said, we don't want these tomatoes to collapse, just a little bit.
It's beautiful.
And then we're gonna add some salt. Rob would probably add more than that, but hey, I'm making it. We can add more later.
That's about right to me.
Okay. So if this was super dry here, you could add a little water, but I'm not quite feeling the need to do that. I'm thinking.
It's not there, huh?
Yeah. As I said, what we're going for is that the tomatoes are starting to collapse a little, but they still hold their shape. And I think we're there. And that, my friends, I wish you could smell this. That is tomato fry. Grab yourself some chapatis and dig in. Real food.